This channel is made possible by viewers like you. My viewers, subscribers, and patrons greatly help to keep this channel going. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for all of you. Please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any uploads. And if you'd like to go the extra mile, please check out my Patreon page. For just $1 a month, you'll get access to what I'm working on, previews of upcoming content, and even early videos, along with other tier options for those that are interested. Thank you, and now on to the video. Dead Island is a great example of a game that may not be much of a looker, especially with its character models and healthy amount of jank. But if your gameplay is good, then much of that can be forgiven. I mean, we all would prefer the latest and greatest for our graphics and a stable performance. But if the game brings the fun, then at least for me, other aspects about the game can be forgiven. Some elements of jank do add to the entertainment value, but Dead Island is an easy sell when it comes to its gameplay. If you like action RPGs and zombies, then this is for you.
I set you free!
Dead Island is an open-world, first-person action RPG. The gameplay progression and even exploration are the main selling points. This isn't a huge, vast open world, but rather mini open worlds of such that act as both hubs for your missions and finding items and rewards in. The action is really satisfying along with the various enemy types you face. Weapons are mainly melee focused with a few gun options. Crafting even plays a role to provide you with even better tools to take out the undead. The story is mostly just passable and something to provide context to the action. You won't be emotionally invested in it. The tone plays the entire situation very serious, which honestly makes for some good, so bad it's good moments from the jank. But again, the different starting classes, leveling, and action help to keep you invested for a long time and even provide some good replay value. Dead Island is rather high on content and fun.
Stay down!
The bulk of Dead Island's gameplay is all focused on the melee. This means you'll be up close and personal with all the undead monsters that you need to take out. The in-your-face action works great to add visceral nature to the combat and violence on display here. In some of the dimly lit areas, it helps to sell a classic survival horror element to the action. Dead Island opts to ground itself in a modern setting, so you won't be using fantasy or sci-fi weapons to defeat your foes. You'll find common items like hammers, blades, shovels, paddles, and a lot more to break, smash, and slice the undead. Sound and impact of the action is sold well. Hits are satisfying whether you are smacking someone with a shovel or slicing them with a blade. Impact-wise, Dead Island features a detailed damage system. There is the expected dismemberment with heads, arms, legs all being sliced off, but hitting an enemy in a limb, you will see it break further. It's honestly not the smoothest of transitions, seeing limbs get more damage, but this feature is pretty cool, and I think it would work a lot better on a less janky engine. Dead Island's melee and movement will have you paying attention to your stamina meter. Running and jumping will deplete it along with slashing or kicking, so this means that most of your offensive and defensive options are tied to this stamina bar. Much of the combat is trying to balance using it without leaving you with anything. For example, being in the heat of combat where you are slashing at enemies, kicking them to push them back can leave you with very little if you hit some runners, and now you have nothing for them with them attacking you or even the option to run away. The jump also acts as a means for dodging. You can side jump, and this is useful when fighting more of the tank-like zombies. There's some nuance and skill here, where most players will start rushing in and slashing around, but this doesn't always work for each encounter. You'll grow in your skill, especially for the bigger foes. Now, like I said before, the bulk of the action is centered on the melee, and all of the systems around it. But there are some firearms along with a class dedicated to just that. Firearms do provide the range power, but they are pretty clunky to use. Something I really like about this game is how it does a good job of quickly getting the player into the action, along with allowing for plenty of exploration. Once you finish the tutorial, you can opt to follow the main storyline, or you can just explore the first open area on the beach. Going back to this title, it really makes me appreciate how it offers this type of exploration for those that want it. The hubs provide their own unique feel and style. For example, the beach is much more open with wider spaces, whereas the city provides a lot of narrow pathways, meaning you have less options to escape escape and can get flanked by zombies. The jungle portion has a nice mix of the living and the undead, with the prison being the final area. The prison acts more like a focused linear level that expands a bit with each mission. Each area has their own personality, and I appreciated the effort to make each area different than the last. It is important to note that you can freely go back to older areas once you move on to a new one. Zombie enemies range from rushers, large tanks, berserkers, and more. Then you have the human enemies, and most of these are usually gunmen. There are some interesting situations where the game will combine the living and the undead in combat situations. When it comes to the progression, it's pretty addictive. You will gain experience points from killing enemies and a lot from completing quests. Once you level up, you can slot a skill point into one of 3 trees. One is related to your special fury move, another specifically for your class, and then one for survival. There is some class customization in what you choose to upgrade first and favor, but don't expect an extensive amount of class customization, and the starting classes have their own ins and outs, so that does add to the replay value. And you can diversify when playing in co-op. To add on to this are the weapon modifications that you will earn through the quests and finding them in the environment. These weapons are usually the best to use and give you the best advantage over the hordes of zombies. Dead Island is a really fun game, but it also has plenty of flaws. There is a layer of jank seen in almost every aspect of the game. You can feel it in the movement from some of the sluggish actions, along with any time you are talking to a character. I had one instance where one guy changed voice actors during the same conversation, and I have no idea, but it seems like almost every character has their head sucking their eyes in. It looks like everyone is drugged, and this aspect always looks silly, but at least it adds to the entertainment value. I'm not really a fan of the straitjacket rushers while in narrow spaces. They feel really cheap and can easily knock you down. I threw some weapons at an enemy one time, died, and then returned back to the dead enemy, and all of my weapons were gone. I lost some of my best stuff, and this was really annoying. The gunplay generally feels off, resulting in a shooting experience that is not smooth at all. When it comes to the main missions, I found the escort missions to be a bit overused. These are generally not fun and are very slow, as you have to wait for your target to slowly move ahead and then follow them. I do wish that there was more objective variety, as most of them have you grabbing items, killing a target, or something like that. I think Dead Island could lend itself well to having some more creative missions situations. Then you have some of the other odd glitches, like limbs suspended in the middle of the air, or the odd blurriness in some of the cutscenes. Lastly, the prison area does feel like it was the last area the developers worked on. It feels less refined than the other levels and hub areas in the game, along with the final boss being very boring to fight. It is very tedious. Get a few slashes in, maybe die, then come back, get a few more, and then until he's dead. Dead Island has plenty of flaws, and some generally need more fixing than others, but overall it didn't really kill my fun that I was having. Dead Island is not a game that you play for the story, or for the emotional weight that maybe the initial trailer promised, which is completely fine since the gameplay is rather good. Hacking and slashing never gets old, and when the story starts to come into play, there's usually something in it that will unexpectedly make you laugh. This was probably not the intent, but it is entertaining nonetheless. Dead Island is a good time in single player or co-op as you complete missions or just take in the game a bit slower, exploring the hub areas, finding supplies, and gaining experience points. It's also a fairly lengthy game, so you'll get plenty of bang for your buck, especially with the addition of New Game Plus and even starting as a new character class. Dead Island is one of those games that is rather flawed, but it's also a little bit underrated as well. It is consistently fun, and I really enjoyed my time with it. Have you played the original Dead Island? If so, what are your thoughts on it? If you're interested in being notified of new videos, please hit the subscribe button and bell. And if you would like to support the channel and get early access to content, please check out my Patreon. All of the links will be at the end of this video and within the description. And thank you very much for watching.